Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja Podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. This show is produced each week with the single intent of discovering the tips, tricks, hacks, and lessons learned from our guests that has catapulted them into living the best version of themselves. Join your host, Tom Hudson, as he continues his search for the best methods to UpRev his life. Now, let's dive into the show.
In today's episode, I interview Jared Nelson, a 35-year-old father of one who has a passion to help people become better versions of themselves. Over the years, he has tried his hand at many careers in many industries until he found his dream job as a lighting technician and a roadie in Australia's live events industry. Jared has run successful freelance lighting and event service for over 5 years before finding a renewed passion for training and development. In 2017, saw the launch of Jared Nelson Training Behind the Wall. This new business offers training, coaching, mentoring, and consulting to the live events and other semi-skilled industries. Hi, Jared. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja Podcast. I've already read your bio out to my audience, but I'd love to hear just who you are in your own words.
So I'm 35 and I'm from Western Australia, which is all the way down the most isolated city in Perth, Western Australia. I was born in a country town. It's actually a gold rush town called Kalgoorlie. Lived there for a few years until my parents decided to move me to the city. I think it was because I had bad asthma, actually. And then, from there I went to high school like everyone else. And I think I was pretty normal or, standard kind of person until I was about 18 and kind of opened up a bit. And I heard someone say that, if you write in a journal, something happens, or it builds you or whatever the actual thing they told me. So I listened to that advice and started writing in journals, and I found that my creative side really opened. And then I went through that phase of dropping out of uni and being in bands and wanting to be in the music industry, and then got into the music industry through lighting and sound and, the kind of roadie side of thing. And then, fast forward 10, 15 years and I'm breaking through all my barriers and actually starting a training company that wants to help people find that vision and that passion that I had for a job that I ended up loving, and then hopefully branching that into other careers and just really helping young kids and young people or people that want to change careers get jobs. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's fantastic. So were you in music even before you were 18, before you kind of went down this path? Did you play any instruments or anything like that?
No, not at all. I used to love listening to top 40 countdowns and stuff like that. My brother kind of got me into Pearl Jam, so I loved music, but I always had this doubt that I was never going to be good enough, or I couldn't play guitar, or those people that played music were amazing and I could never be like that until my mate played me guitar and I started singing and writing lyrics, and I was like, wow, this isn't hard, as long as it comes from you. So it was kind of a late bloomer in the music performance and writing, but definitely once I got into it, I didn't look back.
So I'm not going to feel bad then with the guitar sitting over in the corner collecting dust in my office right now. So
don't worry, my guitar is collecting dust as we speak.
Yeah, I completely hear you though. I've played some instruments since I was about 10 years old and I love it, but I hear other people, and within just a few months how fast they surpass my skill set. I'm just that's not a career path for me, but it's still I still have a love for music, and honestly it's like journaling for me sometimes. It's very meditative, and it kind of gets me into that, pushes everything in the world down, just turns down the volume on all that stuff, and I can just really fall into it.
Yeah, totally. I've just had, me and my wife have just had our first child, a little beautiful baby girl named Kaya, and I'm loving kind of, putting music on more in the house and seeing the way she responds to it. And I'm not too sure how much music I had in my life as a young child, but I definitely want to make that a big part of her life. So music makes the world go round, I reckon.
Yeah, and well, congratulations to the addition in your family.
Yeah, cheers.
So Jared, so tell me about a time in your life that it was a pivotal moment, you were going, you mentioned the journaling, and that's kind of, you dropped out of uni and then you started this new career path that you're on today. was that like the biggest moment in your life? You're like, wow, I'm going to change paths, or have you had some other experience in your life that shaped you and shifted you into a new direction?
Yeah, I guess that journaling thing was more of a period in my life where my eyes opened, if you could say, to the world and the way the world is. But more recently, I think my aha moment was, I guess, finding a massive roadblock that I had. Um, I guess, if you think about, your journey and what you want to do and, ideas you have and the reasons why you don't pursue ideas. 3 years ago, I actually had this big idea to start this company that I'm starting at the moment. And all of a sudden I stopped doing it, and I don't know why I was doing it until I actually started becoming training to be a life coach, and part of the training was running through the material that I would coach people on. And the big point there was procrastination and why you procrastinate. And it was like, hold on, I've been procrastinating about this thing. And then it was kind of like, find out why I was procrastinating, and then, the fourth reason for procrastination was fear and doubt. And I was like, so what's my fear and doubt? And then I was like, and then it came to me, and it was this constant repetitive thought in my head of like, do I deserve this, or do my peers, or the people that train me, are they going to say, oh, what are you doing, you weren't good enough in your career to train people, or like the fact they might have yelled at me or told me the way I ended some relationships from some previous employers, and that stuff would come into your head and it would just stop you and you'd run away from things. And it's like, wow, as soon as you find that fear and you face it and you walk towards it, big things can happen. And that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'm daily facing fears and doubts, and am I good enough, and will this business work, and just taking the step forward instead of that step backwards. So I guess that's my big aha moment recently, is like finding those fears.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and it's crazy, like all the like social conditioning that you get either in school or family, or even that bad breakup that you had that one time in high school, like how bad that can influence you, and you don't even realize it until you start to dig in. And yeah, and I don't know, man. The older I get, it's just we're really like onions and just still peeling layers off. And I know I'll never be the perfect person, but you get somewhere and you're like, wow, I'm doing awesome, and then a week later, you come across another roadblock and you're like, wow, how did I not see this? So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. Just you've got to shine the spotlight on whatever's going on. Don't ignore it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, how do you, so, has your wife helped you with this, or, do you have friends and stuff that you can, kind of mentor you and coach you through some of this? Do you still
Well,
journal?
well, I think I've I've always embraced and searched and tried to seek out techniques or meditation, or whatever it is, just to sample things in the world that just they become a cumulative thing of like try a counselor here, and try emotional freedom technique, or try NLP, try this, try that. The coaching itself is brilliant because you're so accountable. If you're going to teach someone how to be accountable
Oh, yeah.
and you're not accountable, then you're going to have no confidence to engage clients. So yeah, I think it's just everyone. I definitely draw from everyone, but so much more to learn.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, though. I mean, I think, learning is definitely a positive. So you talked about fear and doubt, and, well, procrastination, and you dug into that, and it was kind of around fear and doubt. Do you think there were other things that were kind of preventing you from becoming the best version of yourself?
Yeah, I think I am a Taurus, and I have a large stubbornness to my personality, and therefore a resistance to change, and sometimes not willingness to listen to, I guess, the subtle cues of when people are like, "What's this guy on about?" He's just ranting and raving. So yeah, that's probably one of my biggest barriers that I'm probably still overcoming now, is just kind of sitting back and being a good listener, as opposed to wanting to kind of preach or tell people all my great ideas.
I think coaching's definitely a big help for that too, right? Because they're paying you for your ideas, but at the same time, I've done coaching in the past, and a majority of it is just listening. And when people start to talk, they start to answer themselves what some of those moments are that they need help with. So.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, what about going through coaching? And I definitely want to hear some of your experience about what you do now, and being a roadie, and the music scene and stuff like that. But you've talked to hundreds of people, I'm sure, in that industry and everything else. Is there one piece of advice that just really sticks out that you really love, that you kind of live by?
In respect to like what I do or just life in general.
Yeah, life in general.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of was thinking about this, and I can only say listening to everyone, but not believing them or not letting them make you conform. Taking it on board, but not, still being in control of your decisions. Like you have ideas for a reason, and you're the only one that will ever have them. And I think I spent a lot of years kind of talking about my ideas and expecting somebody to come on board. That won't happen. People come on board when they see you're doing things. So I guess it's like it's taking action and, listening and taking things on board, but, believing that you are the one that's got the idea and you're the only one that's going to make it happen.
Yeah, that's like a perfect definition of confidence, I think, right? Like just
Yeah.
being confident in what you believe, and taking action. That's great, fantastic. So what about you've talked about journaling, and I've heard you talk about emotional freedom, and you said meditation earlier. Do you have a tip, trick, or hack that you just swear by, that you feel that improves you on a regular basis?
Um, I think like lists,
Yeah, okay.
writing lists. Yeah, like I think that's something that's just keeps you grounded, I mean, like definitely through coaching and learning how to coach people, there's more complicated, or not complicated formulas, but there's better way of writing lists, and planning monthly, weekly, yearly, 90-day periods. So, but in general, it all just comes down to writing things on paper and then being accountable to that writing, and putting it out there.
Yeah, do you write down like your goals, and do you have them like plastered on the wall or anything like that?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I've got a whiteboard to the left of me with three gold pyramids, is what I call them, and one's kind of like the best version of me, one's my behind the wall business, and one's my YB12 coach business. So yeah, I'm looking at that right now with stuff, and I think I just did my weekly planner. So yeah, I'm getting right into it now and seeing the results of that. I guess structured approach to life, which is great. In the past I was a bit scattered
yeah,
in my list building and my journaling, but now it's getting more structure to the week and the month is providing some results, which is wicked.
yeah. No, I think that's great. I think it that helps remove some of that fear and doubt and anxiety, right? When you see it, and you see that it's actually working, so you start to build confidence in it, and you start to trust that system more. Um, what was it like when you first started to do your goal pyramids, when you first started that, or any process like that? Did you
Um,
did you believe in it? Did you think it would work?
I think I had to because I invested money in this, and like I said, that I had that aha moment. I'm like, I've got to do this, like I can't not do this. So I didn't have any fear and doubt, but I guess, there's always those moments where you look at yourself and you go, and this is probably the biggest fail that a lot of humans have, is that you look at what you didn't do as opposed to what you have done.
Yeah,
And in that sense, like I could be, filling my week full of activities and things that are quite positive and building towards something, but you can still have those days going, I've done nothing. I feel bad, I feel stressed and anxious, and it's like, what's going on, like I feel empty, and it's like it's just because your mind's going, do more, do more, do more. You haven't done anything, and it's like just put that thought to the side, take a breath, do a stretch, do whatever you've got to do to get out of that space and just, realize that you have done something for the day, even if it's only one thing.
Yeah. So, what about books? Has there been any books that you swear by that you recommend to people? Even your coaching clients, and I know you do coaching now. With in the music industry and stuff. Is there some one particular tool that you always recommend to people?
Look, I grew up. The first books I read was Hunter S. Thompson, and I love that guy because he predicted his future, right? But he was out there. I don't think I learned much from him as a person, but one thing, he wrote a letter to himself or wrote letters about his future, and he said, if all else fails, I will make money out of publishing my letters. And I was reading that book, which was a published volume of his letters, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, that someone can predict their future. And then I guess in more recent times, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, I think that is a must read for anyone that actually has a desire to be the best version of themselves, because that touches on this concept of genius and that everyone has a genius in themselves. And the more time you spend focusing on finding and achieving that genius, the more you will be happy and free from, financial bounds and societal bounds and that sort of thing. And then I guess the other one is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and that's a classic. That's a classic book, and I think even in the pre-blurb of that book they say that this should be taught in schools, and I agree with that. I think every year 11 and 12 students should read that because it's amazing. Even to this day, even though they're talking about when Woolworths started and this, that, and the other, it's amazing. It still works for me today.
Yeah, that's a fantastic book, and I'll have to go back and read the Hendricks one and the Hunter S. Thompson. I'll actually send you an email after this, but I've got a friend who, honestly, dude, I believe he's the modern day Hunter S. Thompson. Like, I've been friends with this guy for 5-6 years, and his story just continues to evolve, and it's pretty fantastic. So,
I love those characters, man.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, definitely a character too. So, what about experiences? What's kind of pushed you outside of your comfort zone as far as experiences and, things that you may recommend to people to try?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know, in my family, I guess, my immediate family and my extended family, I'm probably one of the only ones that has sought out travel.
Oh.
I don't know why that is, but I guess, I think someone said, I seek the kind of exotic, trying to escape, my world or whatever. But I guess through travel, every time I go away for longer than 2 or 3 weeks, I'm filled with ideas and you come back so energized and you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I think a lot of the times I didn't do as much as I told myself in my mind, but, I'm growing now. And but I guess the one thing I can suggest to your audience is that, if you go away and travel and you have these ideas, just harness that energy as soon as you get back for as long as you can to break your old routine, because it is so easy to find yourself 6 months later back in that routine that you're like, oh, crap. So, yeah, travel is amazing. And, yeah.
So a lot of these, when you travel, I assume it's for work is when you're doing this, right?
Oh, no, I travel for pleasure, yeah.
Yeah, great. Just if you don't mind, tell me a typical day when you travel. Do you sightsee? Do you go to a local coffee shop and journal? What's that typical day look like when you're out there for pleasure?
Look, I mean, I definitely have seen the world by pub.
Yeah, me too.
And I love architecture. I'm not an architecture expert, but I love seeing buildings, especially older buildings and stonework. I love Peru for the Inca stonework. It was amazing, Machu Picchu. And then I think just natural spaces as well. I love the beach. I would travel the world by coastline and take my bodyboard, and I could, if I had unlimited money, I'd probably do that for the rest of my life. Take my family around to every beach that had a wave.
Wow, yeah, that would be nice. It would be. So, about this podcast. It's always, we're all about trying to figure out, the best version of ourselves and, just continuous improvement in our life. Is there something that you're currently working on in your life that you're trying to get to the next level?
Yeah, I'm working on and struggling with removing criticism and blame from my life. And this is something that when you read The Big Leap, he'll touch on that. But I guess the concept behind it is that, if you remove these negativities from yourself, the only room that is left to be filled up is love. And that's not love in a hippy dippy way. That's just compassion and empathy for all beings and, situations. So they're the things I want to get rid of. And I think that the people that have successfully done this in their life and removed these criticism, blames, and defilements of the mind have strong character traits, have these strong character traits, and they become these successful, creative people that are organized and the ones that kind of fill rooms with energy. I think I heard one time that they said when JFK went into a room, you felt it, and these people have character and they have commitment to being good people.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of this just comes back to, our social programming, right? We make these split-second judgments that we don't even realize that we're making about people or places or anything like that. And if you could remove that and you get to truly live in the present rather than living on these, predated models that we tell ourselves. So
yeah, it's mindfulness, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I think if you can understand that you have 20s of hundreds of thousands of things going on subconsciously, and like you say, they could just come up and scare you without knowing, and you're like, holy crap, I didn't even mean that.
Yeah.
That mindfulness of I think what's the gatekeeper? You've got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then the critical mind is the gatekeeper, right? So
right.
The more control you have over that gatekeeper of hold on, I'm not going to say that yet. I'm just going to listen a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's when we become, I guess, better people and better versions of ourselves.
So what about personal habits that you have that you feel that really help you out on a daily basis?
Look, I'm pretty strict with myself and the people around me, and I think it's a negative and a positive thing. I'm stubborn and I get frustrated with people, when an idea happens and I'm like, let's just do something about it, and I can kind of come across a bit overbearing. But on the positive side of that, and that's what we want to look at, right, is that keeps me motivated and that keeps me doing things. So I guess, it's a good thing. I can look at stubbornness and, my weaknesses as actually positive and good habits in a way. But I think taking action, and the more and more you take action towards anything and do what you say you're going to do, as opposed to being the kind of I should, I would, or I could have person,
right,
is the key to I think it's one of my better personal habits is backing up what I say with actual action.
That's great. I know. Yeah, I loved what you said about don't use would, should, could. A number of years ago, I actually I have a Mac for a laptop, and anytime I type those non-committal words or phrases like I should be doing this or I might do this, maybe try, any of those non-committal words, I have it where it changes the word and it makes it big, bold, and red. And I've effectively, from a written communication, I don't use those words anymore because I was in a position where I was like, I think we should do this because I was afraid to take charge, which isn't good because I'm in senior management at a company I work for. So when I realized that, I was like, wow, I can't believe this. I need to change this behavior. So
yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've got to be careful about language.
Yeah.
you can easily use like very destructive or constricting language, and you need to use open language, that says what you're doing now and what you will do in the future.
Well, and this gets back to, you mentioned NLP earlier. It gets back to that and really understanding other people as well, like what language helps them benefit and makes them be more motivated, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what about just, kind of wrapping up here? What about some parting guidance, some wisdom that you can share with us?
Well, I think me and you, Tom, can probably share this as people that are probably still finding their genius and their path, is that if you don't know what you want to do, keep looking and keep trying new things. There is no rule or, societal condition that says you get to a certain age and you must just stick and, take what as good as it gets, So, and then I kind of was thinking, like, a part of that is doing what you feel right at all costs, and that is, your body tells you, and your mind, and what happens to you in your life tells you what's right. If you find yourself getting quite sick often, maybe there's something in your mind that's, you're not listening to something in your mind, and I guess kind of summarizing all this, and in the aid of being kind of an individual who wants to be a part of the world and help the world. What is popular is not always what is best, and in saying that, like that, this trap of conformity can actually hold us back, So I guess popping your head above the crowd every now and again and seeing what's out there, and keeping your head above the crowd if you want to actually stand out and do something big in the world is probably the biggest parting gift I can give to people.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that. That's really awesome. So what's the best way that we can connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook as Behind the Wall, which is my new business, which is trying to develop the next generation of roadies. I guess if you Google search for Behind the Wall on Facebook, you would be able to find me. And I also have a website, which is www.behindthewall.com.au.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I checked it out, and I got to be honest with you, it's a pretty awesome website. I loved all the metrics that you had on there. I thought that's really nice.
Yep.
So, is there anything you'd like to, share with us, promote? I know you're working on this Behind the Wall. Do you want to talk about that for a minute and just kind of let us know what it is and what your vision is and where you're trying to take that?
Yeah, totally. So Behind the Wall is a brainchild of myself, and I guess I transitioned from, being a roadie to kind of really figuring out that I was spending a lot of time training people like once, and then they wouldn't come back because, you get given crew that, they just float around to every gig, and there's no kind of solid team that you ever get given sometimes. So it's like I'm retraining these people over and over again. I'm like, man, there's this core set of skills that, these guys need, and I'm just like teaching it over and over again, and it wouldn't it be great if there was kind of like a course you did and, nearly a tattoo you were given to say, yep, you've done the roadie school, and so I kept talking about it and thinking about it, and then, here I am doing it, like I said, I put it on hold 3 years ago after I did my we have a certificate over here, which is your trainer and assessor certificate, which kind of qualifies me to design and facilitate training courses. So I wrote the course and kind of sat on it for 3 years and said, I'm not good enough, or I better get some more industry experience, every excuse under the sun.
Right.
Anyway, came back to it, after doing my coaching of myself, and said, nah, you've been procrastinating that too long, so do it. So I'm launched as a business. I haven't run a course yet, but I have enrollments coming up very shortly. On the 18th of July is my first roadie school, the inaugural roadie school. And I'm just out there targeting, the youth in high schools and showing that it's a potential career, whether it's a job to get you through uni or whether it's a career that you actually want. It's an empowering career, right? You get to do a job in a short period of time that is nothing to something to nothing again, so whether it's, on tour with a bigger band and just seeing stadiums get filled with all sorts of equipment are getting packed down in one day, or whether it's a big 10-day festival build, you're still getting that empowerment of like, I was part of this team that put this big temporary structure in and put on this massive show, whether it be arts or music or whatever it is, and then it packs down and you all kind of have that beer after work and go, wow, we just did one more, and we didn't mess it up, and the show always goes on, I tell you, and, live events, there's no leave it till tomorrow or contract extension or, let's put in a, change submission or something like that. It's like at 6 o'clock, those doors will open. So, it's a beautiful industry to teach work ethic and empower people to, get things done.
It just sounds amazing to me. I'm sitting here with a huge smile on my face. So, there's the music industry and everything. I mean, in my life, it's very romanticized. I've got a ton of friends.
There's nothing romantic. I think that's part of it as well. Is like, that's the behind the wall thing. Is like, there's this wall of light and sound that everyone thinks there's like crazy, sex fueled rock and roll stuff going on. There isn't. There's probably a whole bunch of really tired people just, sipping like throat coat tea. And, there is that stuff that goes on. And I've got some great stories of meeting artists and partying and whatever, but they're few and far between, I tell you what.
Yeah, I think that's what attracts people, though, to it, right? Because that's all, if you read books or any of the movies, that's what you see, that romanticized part of it. But, still, it just takes one story sometime to give someone enough fuel to get through the next year of, until their next good story. So, great chatting with you, Jared. I really appreciate it, and I loved a lot of the stuff, and you've got some pretty cool, I'm sitting here like, ooh, what am I going to call this episode? And you threw out a couple of good zingers out there I might use. But, dude, this is awesome. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to go over?
No, I think that's pretty good, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with your podcast and seeing what other great speakers and visionaries you've got to offer us.
Awesome, cool. Well, I really appreciate that, Jared. And if there's anything we can do for you, reach out. Looking forward to seeing how that first class goes on the 18th of July for you. I'd love to hear how that goes and give us an update.
Yeah, I'll be documenting it all, so it'll be amazing, and it'll be up on the website. So keep your eyes peeled if you want to check it out.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks for your time today, Jared. Appreciate it.
Awesome, Tom. Thanks.
I really enjoyed this interview with Jared. It's just really cool, and I wanted to talk about some of his stories about music and going on tour and being a roadie and stuff, but we didn't get into that. But regardless, there's a lot of good takeaways from this. He really quickly we get into just how important journaling is for him. Then we move into how fear and doubt, how it can be paralyzing, and the method that he used to break free of that. And then something that's probably going to be very common is, we started talking about the books. He brought up Hunter S. Thompson, The Big Leap, and then one you're going to hear probably multiple times, which is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which is just, a fantastic book. And then something else he mentions later in the interview is just about, a piece of wisdom he dropped on us was just finding your genius. Finding out what you really like and where you're good at, and embracing it, get rid of the fear and doubt, and just go home with it, own it. So those are my key takeaways. What are the key takeaways you have from the show?
Thanks for listening to the UpRev Ninja podcast with your host, Tom Hudson. Navigate to our website at uprev.ninja today, where you will find additional resources to help you discover the best version of you. While you're there, join our newsletter and join the discussion on your favorite social media platforms. We've got some awesome guests lined up to share with us how they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Again, thank you for listening. Now it's time to go out and uprev your life.